So it is not actually the first time Russians tried to disrupt Ukrainian communications or vital services. Estimated that with that level of access to the network, Russian hackers could gain access to the personal information, locate some phones, intercept SMS messages.
I think it was kind of a lesson. Let's hope it will do more good for our future resilience than it has done us harm. Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Centre and NGO Valantic course. And I'm your host, Matt Wickham. And in this episode, we will discuss the Kyivstar hack. Why did the Russians attack the communication system? How did they do it? And what was achieved? If you want to learn more about this subject, please continue watching this video. And don't forget to press subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos in the future. Nearly 2 years after Russia's full-scale invasion, Russia has managed to disrupt services from Ukraine's largest telecom operator for several days, beginning December the 12th, 2023. Dmytro, the head of Ukraine's SBU cybersecurity department, revealed information about how the destructive hack, emphasizing its psychological impact and intelligence gathering purpose, was performed. He told how he sees the attack as a stern warning to Ukraine and the rest of the Western world, claiming that no one is safe. Our first guest on today's show, Roman Osadchuk, research associate at the DFRLab, tells how a Russian government-affiliated hacker group forced Kyivstar to shut down, impacting 24 million users through, most probably, an employee's email. He tells how the breach potentially allowed Russia to collect personal data, intercept SMS messages, compromise accounts with SMS verification, and even locate phones. Let's take a listen.
On December 12th, the Ukrainian telecom operator and internet service provider Kyivstar experienced a hacker attack that forced the company to shut down the whole physical system and stop providing services to their customers to prevent further damage. The cyber incident is attributed to hacker group Sandworm, that is actually a Russian government-affiliated hacker group. The attack focused on the virtual level of the system, meaning that virtual IT network that manages services of the network, servers, settings, and other critical information that is needed for normal functioning of the whole system on the operator. So it is not actually the first time Russians tried to disrupt Ukrainian communications or vital services. In February, just a few weeks before large-scale invasion, Russians groups attacked banks, telecom systems, and also they hindered services of the satellite provider Viasat just days before the actual start of the large-scale invasion. The reason for this specific attack are manifold. So the first one is probably to solve the chaos. We should remember that Kyivstar is a large network that has 24 million users, simultaneous users that actually were impacted by this hack. So they lost their connection, they couldn't call their relatives, they couldn't access the internet network, etc. So in this specific case, people either needed to reach out for some alternatives, meaning other Ukrainian operators, which might also make the huge problems for those operators as well, because they need to serve so many many users that they might also experience some problems on their services as well. In a nutshell, it means economy losses, delays, and problems in multiple spheres, ranging from the ATM cash withdrawal to air raid alert system that in some places were using Kyivstar systems. It caused a huge blow to Ukrainian economy because, well, some people needed to postpone their operations because they cannot get online. Finally, there is another reason for that. It's the data collection. The investigation of this specific cyber attack is still ongoing, so we do not know the extent of the data breach or whether there is data breach at all. Kyivstar claims that users' data are safe and secure, but we do not know this before the actual investigation completes. Security Service of Ukraine, SSU, estimated that with that level of access to the network, Russian hackers could gain access to the personal information, locate some phones, intercept SMS messages, and even steal some accounts on messengers or some other services that require SMS verification. Military-wise, it might also be an objective to damage communication system of Ukrainian military. But again, according to the security service spokesperson, it wasn't heavily impacting Ukrainian military communication systems. Like any system in the world, Kyivstar security demonstrated that there might be some breaches and vulnerabilities. And according to the company statement, the hackers received an access to the system through the account of one of the employees, which is quite usual vector for cyber attacks. It's important to know that actually all Ukrainian services, both governmental and private banking institutions, they all experience immense cyber attacks since the large-scale invasion and slightly before that. So this hack just proves that there is no ideal defense systems. It's always a process, and the companies should adapt because the hackers are always searching for some vulnerabilities and would try to hack them. So it is just basically impossible to anticipate all of the possibilities and all of the different approaches that hackers might use to actually penetrate the system and damage it. Again, according to the operators of the Kyivstar, there was no information leaked, but again, the investigation is still ongoing, and most likely the quick reaction on the side of Kyivstar and the Security Service of Ukraine to shut down the whole physical system in order to prevent further damage actually allowed to avoid even biggest problems on the side of operator. Finally, there is a huge cooperation between Ukrainian counterparts and foreign companies in cybersecurity domain. So basically, this trainings, materials, and communication between them might also actually repel some previous attacks and maybe help to minimize the damage by this specific attack. At the same time, we should note that SBU, Security Service of Ukraine, also said that they prevented even further attacks after the Kyivstar restored their system, meaning that hackers tried to attack it again and again, meaning that, as I said, this is a process. It's not something that might be ended and concluded at one specific point. As for the lesson for foreign partners and for other entities around the world, it means just despite the size of the organization and the top-notch security measures implemented, there is always the risk that those companies might be damaged by a well-orchestrated attack that might disrupt services for millions of people.
Our next guest speaker, Dmytro Antoniuk, director of Sana Commerce, Valantic, and Easygenerator in Ukraine, reminds us of the damage this hack, telling who was most susceptible. Let's take a listen. I believe we don't know the entire plan, because the concept was likely quite large scale. According to the information we are currently receiving, hackers had specific objectives. Some of them may have been achieved, while others may have not. I believe that the destruction of part of the logical infrastructure and a significant disruption in the operation of one of the largest mobile operators in the country, which provides, firstly, mobile communication, secondly, home internet connection, and thirdly, television facilities, that is, the connection, is provided for civilians and, as far as I understand, a non-critical connection, partly, for the military, is a fairly significant success for one of our enemies and a failure for Ukraine. From what we know, communication in Ukraine was significantly disrupted for many people for 5 to 6 days. From what we know publicly, private individual subscribers were the most affected by this disruption because most companies in principle had a certain backup communication option. Therefore, I think that most of us do not know and cannot know. Maybe someday it will be known, but the disruption of operation of such a system is a serious disruption of the general functioning of the state at this moment in time. We asked Dmytro if an attack this magnitude could happen again in the future, and what was the weak link that allowed them to penetrate the company's security infrastructure. Dmytro describes the two weak links in any system, with humans being the weakest of the two. This is often what hackers are betting on. I think it can happen again, because such systems have two main points, the human factor and the technical means of protection. And recently, probably the main thing in most serious attacks is the use of the human factor. There are people and they have their weaknesses and they have their addictions, and hackers take advantages of these weaknesses. They resort to monetary incentives or certain threats, maybe even negative incentives, or someone is ideological in a certain way. And when that coincides with monetary incentives, a person is willing to do quite a lot of bad things. Therefore, from what is known, it must have been a certain person inside, that is, access was gained in a certain way, and then the hackers did it by technical means. We do not know yet how much information was obtained that was not intended to be released, and we know that, in principle, the settings on many internal systems of the operator were destroyed. Next, we asked Dmytro what this attack had taught the world and what lessons could be learned from it. Dmytro tells how all eggs shouldn't be put in one basket when it comes to connectivity, internet and TV. After all, it's good to have a backup plan, and how he hopes this attack has done more good than bad for the Ukrainian society. I think that Ukrainians have been influenced by many things that even residents of developed countries do not understand. As for monopoly, I think there are 3 operators in Ukraine, 2 of which are larger. This situation isn't too exceptional. A lot of countries have only a few dominant operators, and even if there are more operators in the country, they very often use the infrastructure of one of the largest operators. So it happens even in developed countries. I think that most of them have drawn conclusions. Companies diversified their means of communications before this, and private individuals in a certain way too. Our company, for example, has prepared even before the beginning of Russia's large-scale invasion in terms of communication channels and backup communication channels and means of communication. After the invasion started, we discussed, looked at the lessons we saw, we had missed. We probably improved our communications. Then, after the problem with Kyivstar, we identified other things that had to be improved too. It wasn't about core staff, but more about support staff more, perhaps about older people. It turned out that the most of the main staff had at least 2 numbers, so we could connect to the internet and contact people. We improved it a little bit. I think that more people bought at least 2 cards from 2 different operators, and I think companies re-examined their communication channels. One of the moments was a large number of private individuals depended on the Kyivstar mobile operator and on Kyivstar as a wide internet provider. So most people realized that such connection is critical for their work or life and diversified their supplies a bit. I think it'll benefit everyone, and I wouldn't say it because of Kyivstar, probably everyone that thought that could happen. As far as I know, Kyivstar organized means of protection quite professionally. That is, it can happen to any operator. So now people should think about diversifying their communication, both mobile and internet. I think it was kind of a lesson. Let's hope it will do more good for our future resilience than it has done us harm. You've been watching the special project by Ukraine Media Center and NGO Valantic course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find more information about how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you like our work and find it useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!